Welcome to episode 2 of Potato Tamato. My name is Trenton Ingle, and I'm here with Gabe, Ethan, Jack, Cole, and special guest Elizabeth.
Hello.
Today, we'll be discussing how schools should reopen. In my opinion, there are several options that could be safer than opening up actual physical schools.
This is Ethan, and in my opinion, I think we should split up the schools into two halves, and some people go on one day, and then the other half go on another day. This would allow teachers to teach students how to work online school, and it would also limit the contact between students, making it harder for COVID to spread.
Gabe here, and I think we should postpone or at least move school backward so that it starts later in the year. It may end around May or June, but at least we should probably let this settle because the second wave of COVID could come, and I think at least postpone it, or just move it back, I guess.
This is Cole, and personally, I think it'd be a good idea to have like the 8th graders and high schoolers go back to school and not the rest of the middle school and the elementary, because we have a better understanding of what is going on in the world and we know what to do. With them, they really don't know as much, and they just want to focus on being at school with their friends when we would actually understand the severity of the situation.
I'm Jack, and I think that now that we've had an experience with this, we should set up programs over the summer where small groups of people could go in and be taught how to use the system, and we should have all our assignments be limited to a few different websites so that there's consistency. And I also think we should focus more on testing.
This is Elizabeth. I think that each school district should handle it differently because not every district has the same amount of kids and has the same situation going on.
Now that we know everyone's opinions, let's have an open discussion about the topic.
I'll start off again. Last year, we had maybe a few vocab tests, and we didn't have any other tests. And I think that, it worked this year because we were all trying to go along and just figure it out as we went. But I think we should prepare more next year and focus on testing and actually give students the stuff that they need, because now we're all a little bit more experienced in it. So I think we can come up with a consistent system to get work out from home and still focus on testing.
And I agree with something that you said earlier about, someone said having people go into schools so we can learn about the online schooling. I feel like there should be small amounts of kids that go to school on certain days so the teachers can explain to us how they want to use the online schooling. So we, like teachers and students together, can both understand how it works better, so we all just have a better experience overall.
I feel like at the smaller schools we have such a low enrollment that we could set in social distancing methods while we go to school every day normally. Because we have 15 kids in a class at a time.
Yeah, especially because the population density is so low around here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think
our county only has 10 cases.
That obviously wouldn't be the case.
Well,
as of now, there's only 2 active cases.
Oh, alrighty.
But what do you think the best way to split them up would be? Do you think using more classrooms and putting less people in it, or do you think we should have this group of students, this half of the school goes for 1 week while the other one's online, or should we alternate days? What do you think?
I think how Cole said, the people from 6th grade below don't go to school and they just stay online. Yeah. We should do something. Yeah. Then we have so many open classrooms. We could put less. We have more classrooms to work with, and you can spread out the people more evenly.
Yeah, and we can cut non-mandatory classes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And then also, I feel like we should do every grade will be split in half. Monday, one group would be online and the other one would be at the school, and then for Tuesday it'd switch. So it's alternating who has the online classes and then who is actually in person at the school.
And then on Fridays they swap each week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like how A and B classes are.
Yeah.
I think it should be every week.
Yeah, I will say.
Then it wouldn't be
right.
Switch.
Yeah.
If you
So
switch every day, there's going to be people that forget.
Oh,
But you could I also thought about this. You could offer a system where you say, we're going to come to school, we're going to try to social distance, but there's also going to be online courses available if you don't feel comfortable coming. And then the students that can't, like, there are going to be some times where it's just not possible to social distance. So if you're not willing to take that risk, you can just stay home.
Right, that's
And
a good idea.
I feel like, because you have to get the parents' permission, but I think it could be a good idea to like have the teachers, like every teacher, record their like in-class session. So if some parents aren't comfortable with their kids going back to school, they can send that video out, so they're not missing anything that actually happened in class itself.
Yeah.
So they're still getting all the same experiences just from home.
Yeah, I know, like, my
And
math.
then you can also have, because I've seen like some places in Japan, they would do this where they have like, they're digitally, like they have robots, but we
Right.
don't have that technology.
Yeah.
We don't have that around here.
I
We
know.
could just like have like a call, like Discord or Zoom, if we really wanted to.
I know,
The
like,
one
my
prob-
math teacher this year, he would videotape like lessons, like he would videotape what he would do on like a normal day, and that made classes much easier. Like other teachers didn't do that, and everything got really confusing.
Yeah, I enjoyed those classes much better than all the other ones.
I feel like one of the issues with like doing half online schooling is the students still won't feel the responsibility to complete it like they would in school. And we already saw that with what we did this spring. All these students wouldn't complete their work and it dropped their grades dramatically.
Yeah, but that's why like teachers should teach about that while they are in school for their half.
Yeah.
With lack of motivation, that's why I think the every other day from online to in like public, like at the school itself, would be more. It'd make more sense, in my opinion, than going every other week, because they still have that accountability, because they'll still be going to the school every other day. So the teachers can hold them accountable for not doing their work at school. It's not they have that week of doing nothing if they don't do any of their work, and then have to worry about it the next week.
I really don't think it's an option for schools to shut down completely again, because they like need that funding to like stay open, especially inner city schools that don't have enough funding as it is already. They need the funding like for kids going back to school to.
Well, they get their
Like-
funding from the
like
state. It's
the-
not it's not the
like the
majority of
town-
it isn't from.
Yeah, but like
School
this.
west of here that just lost a bunch of teachers because of this.
Yeah.
No,
Don't
not
wanna
gonna say
name
names, but
Yeah.
What school are you talking
Yeah,
about?
I didn't hear about this.
What are you talking
What
about?
are you talking about?
okay, Ayersville.
Oh yeah, I heard about they also might have to close down the school as well.
Really?
They're all
I heard
Yeah.
that.
If they don't get enough money.
Yeah.
The levy didn't pass.
It didn't?
Yeah, I was
I was
They're not-
surprised by that.
I was surprised too.
I think it was
I was like,
because
interesting.
it would increase land taxes, and the farmers didn't want to pay for that because it increased a lot.
See?
They'd have to pay a ton of money.
This is what I'm talking about. Like schools need this money to stay open, especially when they don't have enough funding as it is already. And parents are probably gonna start to get mad if they're paying full tax and like price for their students to be
Oh.
learning from home over
Oh
computers.
yeah, and I also heard that Ayersville, you have to pay to play sports. You have to pay for like the equipment and to play it.
And like who knows?
You're still cutting this out.
And I do know that there were some parents who felt ripped off. So how are there going to be people that'll try to go to online schooling because of this? I mean, I think the taxing goes by property, right? Like which school district you're in. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They only tax the people that are in the school
Right.
district, as I think.
I wonder if there will be people willing to opt out of to go to a different school, which will still affect us.
I feel like most
Yeah,
of
I'm
them will
pretty sure
because of
like
that.
a bunch of kids from Ayersville are gonna start going to Nora or Defiance.
Especially since most students don't get I know you do, Trenton, but most students don't feel like they're getting the same education over computer, so they're not getting what they paid for per
Right.
se.
No.
I'd also be surprised if some students didn't go to homeschooling. I feel like some parents are actually going to opt into that option for this
Right.
upcoming school year because they aren't comfortable with their kids going back into classrooms.
It's a very quiet option that I think you're right. I think most, or not most, but some parents will follow into homeschooling due to the fact of what's going on.
Especially with all these like new programs popping up.
There's
it seems like
so
there's,
many.
It seems like there's new ones coming out every day.
And they're discounted a lot in this time
Yeah.
because of everything that's going on. Some of them are actually free at the moment.
That's why I think it's necessary to like have a little program, even if it's before the school year officially starts, to just get students in and show them how to use the program. And I don't think, no matter how bad it gets, I don't think we should do that pass-fail thing again, or not let it affect eligibility the next. I think we should hold them accountable to keep their grades up.
I don't think the high school was pass-fail.
It wasn't.
It was just the middle school was.
I don't think we should do that with anybody.
No.
I
I
think
think it's because
But-
they expected, like they expected a lack of maturity from them, which I feel like in some students they might have found that, but I feel like as a whole it wasn't that bad.
But I mean, they showed the willingness to do that last year. So what if like it gets so bad that they do it to everyone? I don't think they should do that.
I personally feel like the work itself was a lot easier than it would be in class until the point of how do you work this?
Right.
Yeah.
I found it pretty easy. Like, I mean, my grades didn't really drop at all.
Yeah.
But I think the main issue was just figuring out the website, because every website will teach you a little bit differently.
But
you just gotta figure it out. So like that's the thing. Like, I feel like the school would benefit the most if we did like what the math teachers were doing and we're recording their lessons in person, so then it's consistent. I know it would require a little bit more from the teachers, but if we taught them how to do it, like programs similarly to teaching the students how to use the online class, if we could keep it all onto Google Classroom, I think it would help a lot.
Yeah.
And then you had
Because
teachers,
everyone knows how to use Google Classroom. It's
and you
just
had teachers who would use a different website every week. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then we can also go, because Google also just made one of their meeting apps free. What's it called? Like Google Meet, I think.
I'm pretty sure it's
We could use that instead of Zoom, because Zoom, there's a lot of security concerns with it. It's super easy for people to
I think
bypass themselves into that. Well, Discord I feel like you can have 35 people in a meeting with.
No, I thought there wasn't a limit.
No, there's
Oh,
35.
wow.
Like Zoom is like 400 with like the maximum, like the highest
I feel
membership, but with Google it's like 100 or 200. So that'll be perfect for like our school size.
Yeah.
And we already have like our Google
That's
accounts,
like-
just so it's all in one ecosystem, and we don't have to worry about extra passwords, like different usernames. It'd be so more simplistic and easy for the less tech-inclined students and teachers that we have at our school district.
Well, so you guys want to go like homeschooling, like half and half. What about public schools? Like, I'm not public schools. Cut that part.
Private schools?
Private schools?
I mean, no, cut this part out.
No.
It's alright.
What about inner city schools where kids, like, a lot of more kids don't have as much money and they don't have the right access to technology?
And that brings it back, like, is it worth the risk? Because there's two ways that this can affect it. You can either have students not learning it through online, or when they're there physically, there's the threat of getting coronavirus. And I don't think it's mainly for the students. I think it's like, say you have 15 students in a classroom, they each have 4 family members. That group gets really big really fast. I think they're worried about, like, the people at home, grandma and grandpa, that are going to get sick. And, like, is it worth it? Do they outweigh? Does one outweigh the other?
See, that's where I think the sense of responsibility comes in, when you should have the option to do homeschool or like in-class school, because if you are living with your grandparents, then you might not want to go and like sit in a class all day with 15 other kids, 20 other kids. But when you're not really living with anyone that's at high risk, then you don't really have much risk. But there's also the sense of responsibility where if you're going to take that path, then you probably should stay away from your grandparents and your like great aunts and uncles.
But
And
what
also-
happens if you get it and then you give it to like your friend or something who does live with their grandparents?
This is a problem. We'd have to shut down everything.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we'd have to be prepared to go into full online schooling in one day.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I mean, we're like 3 months away from school starting, so a lot could change. But I feel like right now, the safest way to like balance out physical safety and learning, like actually learning the subjects, I feel like it would be, you can choose to come in, but we're gonna broadcast all the stuff. So if you are not comfortable, then you can stay home.
I love the idea of just broadcasting what you're doing, because there's also kids that learn a different way and they learn at a different speed. And there's also kids that just don't want to learn. So you can continue to play the video and continue to learn at your speed. I also like, let's say you're sick, or let's say you get corona. Let's say you have to do something. Someone dies, you have to go to a funeral. You can just replay the video that was already broadcasted, and you can just watch it and learn.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that, but like, we'd have to, the teachers would have to do their homework, and we'd have to know, even the students, we'd all have to know that if one person gets it, we're going to not be going to school the next day, and we're going to have to be able to handle that transition.
Right.
That's why it's important for us to understand how to do both. Like, respect social distancing in the school building, and then also work the online schooling. Because, yeah, there's a possibility one day someone's going to get it and entire schools are being closed down because of it.
And I think it would be a good idea if, like, the teachers that also set up a lesson plan for, like, packets. Not just,
Not busy work, like not like the
Not-
blizzard bags.
No, not like blizzard bags, but like packets, physical packets, and then computers, so that you have an option on which one you want to do if you
Right.
didn't like the online
All your-
schooling.
All your physical work has to be able to put online, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
right?
so
Yeah,
they
it
should
has
they
to
should
be-
be connected
like-
to each other.
Like PDF
Yes.
forms, just fill them out.
Right.
Like
You can
All
print
this-
them out.
yeah,
all
all
the
you
stuff you
or if you have
can
a
do at
scanner,
school
just-
has
Right.
to be something you can do at home.
Right, because we have to be prepared.
Yeah, like
Which-
you,
I think that's why those programs to get people in and for the teachers and the students to get them to understand the system, I think is necessary.
What about sports?
I feel like with some sports, it's so much like close contact that I don't think it'd be the greatest idea. And with that, I feel like you'd have to, like, just in case, they would have you, like, take showers in the locker rooms to, like, to sanitize, just in case there was someone who had come in contact with someone that did have it, just to be on the safe side.
And like my biggest concern would be the football team, because
Right.
sometimes you're traveling 2 hours to a different place, you have no clue what the situation's like over there. So like
That's-
we might have to like adapt our schedule or our game schedule to make sure that the people we're coming in contact couldn't have it, like at the most low
That's a-
risks.
yeah, like
A surprising amount of money for the schools does come from football, though. Like, it poses a high risk, but it also is a substantial amount of financial.
Right. We would definitely feel it if we just canceled the whole season.
I don't
Yeah.
think Holgate would feel it as much as bigger city schools because we don't have as much of a crowd that travels places
Yeah.
and goes to games. But bigger schools would definitely feel it more.
Even if we just made like an intimate group of like 8 to 10 teams that just agreed to like only play each other, and then we all are on the same page. Like if one person in any of the 8 schools gets it, then we all gets coronavirus, then we all shut down. I think even if we do that, we still need to try to get our sports going.
And I feel like they should do it like where you get like because I know that tests are slowly getting cheaper and cheaper. I feel like it'd be a wise decision to have like them take a test like a day before the sporting event that they're participating in. So that means that there is a very low chance of them transmitting it.
Which I mean, and by then we might be able to get tests whenever we want.
Yeah.
But like I feel like cross country isn't a big as issue. Like we don't really have to like we're right now I'm just talking about like fall and winter sports.
Yeah.
But
It's much less
like,
of a
it's even, like-
contact sport.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
But
That's
think
what-
about like Tiffin,
Yeah, that's
like
what I'm
all those
confused about.
people.
Because
Yeah.
we all
Oh, yeah.
breathe on each
it would
other.
it would be
Oh, yeah.
hard, but I feel like we might have to cut out some meets, but I feel like it'd be easier to get around the caution tape.
Or
Yeah,
they would
They
have
probably
some
could just
needs
send you
that-
off in smaller groups
I was
as
gonna say,
well.
Right.
they could like
Yeah.
make the starting line bigger.
Right. Or you
Yeah.
could even you could like separate it up. This would be, I would not enjoy this at all, but you could separate it into like groups of 30 people and then just go based on time.
Oh
it would
my
be,
gosh,
that would,
that
take
would
all day,
be-
though.
it would be horrible, but
But then you
it's,
could have
it's
people
a way
just
to
come
do
in
it.
when they need to.
Sorry,
So then there would be less people.
we're like all cross country people, so.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm
One,
not
well,
as-
two of us aren't.
Except
Yeah.
for
Well,
play
so
no-
speaking from
except
Trent and
for
I's
two.
experience, I feel like another thing that wouldn't be affected that much would be marching band. Because you always do keep that distance from each other. You're not that close to each other. So that's one thing that I feel like would possibly stay the same.
And
Except
golf.
for it would
Like,
be
what if-
affected by the.
It would be affected
Football.
by football, but like parades, festivals, competitions.
I know
Well-
that.
Which like I don't think we need to talk about cross country so much because you can do cross country. You don't have to have meets every weekend to do cross country. With football, you kind of need those games to
Yeah.
bring in
Yeah.
revenue. We're not really getting that much money from cross country. I know it'll be a grind through the fall, but if you only need to do like 4 or 5 meets throughout the whole season, it's doable. It's not ideal, but it's doable.
Don't
Yeah.
the like individual sports programs, don't they fund themselves, or do they get funding from the school
I
itself?
think we get funding from the school.
We get
too.
funding from
Yeah.
athletic boosters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And golf is definitely low risk. That's one that could definitely
Right.
go.
Yeah,
on.
that would
Yes,
be good.
golf.
Yes. But like
But-
going into winter, like that's
Basketball. Well,
Right.
I have a.
But what if, like,
The thing
what
is,
if we just
yeah.
cut out the fan, like no one can go into the game, but you have like cameras so you can live stream it too.
I feel like that just wouldn't.
Yeah,
It works,
it
but
would work,
it's-
but
it
it
works,
wouldn't.
but it's not ideal.
It sounds good on
Yeah, it
paper,
wouldn't
but
work
I
as
have a
much.
feeling something would.
But-
I feel like a lot of kids would not play if that's how it was.
I could see
It might not be the kids themselves. It might be the parents as well that
Yeah,
don't want
the
their kids to
parents
play
would
because
not.
of that, because they want to be there and support their kids in a positive way.
But like,
Right.
assuming that everyone's willing to play, I could see two outcomes. Either we're gonna get a big second, even if it's not that big, people are gonna freak out about the second wave.
Yeah.
They're gonna say this is coming back, but as we reopen, it's just gonna happen. That's just gonna have to be something we deal with. But that's one. Things are gonna, when you get colder, your immune system goes down, so people are gonna be more vulnerable to it, and we're gonna be starting to reopen hopefully by then. So if that happens and if the school freaks out, we might not be able to have it. But if we do open, then yeah, I don't think we'd be able to have crowds or anything
Yeah.
like
I
that.
feel like it's really crummy to just like take away all these kids' hard work, though.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like how you saw it at the state basketball tournament, well, as they were warming up, people told them they couldn't play.
Right, with
That
the
would have
Nickelodeon
been
girls.
awful. Yeah.
Yeah, that we can't do that. You have to make
No.
a decision before the first game.
Mhm.
I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
which like that's what we did with track. We did our workouts, and then it's not like we were halfway through the season when they canceled it on us.
We only had like a week and a half of practice under our belt. And
Yeah.
Well, I
then
mean,
I wasn't.
I feel like one thing that could stay normal would be track. Well, some events in track, like
Yeah, right.
field, I feel like it'd be fine. Like discus, shot put, long jump, those would be fine.
that's also not until the spring, though.
Yeah,
so.
those
Yeah.
a while. This might all be settled down by then.
Hopefully, we'll have a vaccine.
And like
by
you
then.
know, we haven't even considered the idea. Maybe we could like go based on. We don't have to have anything set in stone. What if we offered that online courses for the first semester, and then as time progresses, we're considering like easing into the full school.
That would just
Or we could offer like the first semester you have to do online, and the second semester you can come in. You don't have to.
Oh, I would
Just to
tear out
see.
my hair.
I
Oh
mean,
my
things,
gosh.
things could change by then, but that's where you have to get in the programs and teach kids how to use it. I didn't think it was all that hard, but I know our class especially struggled a lot with that.
Mhm.
So we need, now that we have time to think about it, we have 3 months before we do any homework. We need to like get in and make sure that everyone knows how to use this, and make sure that they understand the consequences if you slack off.
I know that apparently some people couldn't like edit the PDFs.
Yeah.
And that is a large problem if you can't do that.
Which is why we should keep it to a few websites so we know how they run.
Right. And Windows has a PDF editor most of the time.
I just feel like we should take advantage of the time given to us to work out something. Like we should be talking right now about how to integrate online schooling into next year, because I feel like you can't open up right away
Right.
and not have online schooling as even an option, because that's gonna have to be necessary. Otherwise, people are just gonna leave.
Yep.
Yeah,
They're
if
gonna
we do
go
that,
to-
people are probably going to be going to online, like the homeschooling program that there are.
Like-
If we just don't have any online schooling, just go straight to in-person teaching.
Right. And our school definitely could not like lose that many people.
No.
No.
There were,
Oh,
like
gosh.
15 people in a class.
And then that also poses the problem. If you come in, what are the guidelines for that? Like, do you have a lunch in the cafeteria? Do you just stay in the same room all the time? How many kids are in the room? There's a lot of.
I think
I
that'd
mean,
be a good
if you-
idea. Like
if
having one thing is that might seem really bland in one day, but like having the teachers go, like maybe have them move around and have the same students sit in the same classroom.
Yeah, I know.
But then, like, we would get individual breaks when certain rooms would go out and like get to walk around a bit, so we're not just sitting in the same place.
I
That's
know,
not
like
doing
other
anything.
countries have been doing that even before COVID hit.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I better not be ending up with some people that I think I'm going to end up with. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
But like, how many?
Or you
We,
do that.
we have some very small classrooms. You might be able to only fit
Half as many people.
Eight people in a classroom at a time. That would be tough.
Mhm.
And for bigger schools, they usually have bigger classrooms. But
Right.
yeah, I think
We
that
also
if
have
we
a
do
bigger
that,
enrollment.
right? If
Right.
we do that, we might have to like make sure that the elementary doesn't come, just so that we have enough room.
Yeah.
Another thing I think that we should think about is if like the music, if like music, that means like choir band, if like ag is going to be returning this next school year. If we're only going with the essential less like only essential classes, will those be making a return?
And that could affect someone's graduation because that
Yeah.
counts
Right.
for credits. Like
Oh,
you have to
yeah.
think about
Yeah.
things, and like that with this test placing, you have to get so many points on the test.
Well, they could nullify that part, like just like
They can,
knock it
yeah.
out.
Yeah,
But
the
like
state
how
has
how
the-
much would you subtract though?
Right.
Like there's
Probably
some,
just like extracurriculars. Or
If,
not
if you were signed
extracurriculars,
up
but-
for it, I think they would probably give you the credit for it, possibly. Like because like I'm signed up for ag and band for this next semester. I feel like if we didn't have those two classes, like you'd be given those credits for that class.
And what
Yeah.
about like ACTs and stuff? Because we wouldn't be learning as much as we probably should be to get ready for those.
exactly.
They would
Well,
probably
from-
change
from
the
my
tests.
idea, I think we should
Yeah.
just cut that out because it's just been so hectic lately. And what happens if COVID comes back and then we have to get out?
Right.
And then we're
before
taking a
state
test.
Then you're taking
Yeah.
a test at home, and
Yeah,
from what I've
and you
heard,
know
those-
people are gonna cheat on
Oh
that.
yeah,
From what I've
definitely.
heard, those tests can put a lot of stress on some students.
oh yeah,
And there are a lot of places that are just testings like that kind of testing. It feels like it's slowly getting irrelevant.
right.
Yeah.
Because there's so many like affirmative action programs.
No.
It's
a
like
whole
you
day.
could be having a bad day on that specific day, which you're taking a test on,
Right.
and it's like that could make you do worse.
Which like I feel it should have some substance, but I don't think it should determine that. Like I feel like there should be a broad picture of your entire resume as a student.
Yeah, like if
Yeah,
because I know
But it is definitely phasing out of relevance.
I know
Yeah.
that most colleges either look at only your ACT or only your GPA. They should look at both of them together along with everything like extra.
like they should look at your details, like
Especially
throughout
details.
school.
Like they're gonna have to take into account the class of 2023 went through 2 years of coronavirus.
Class of 2022 went through 2 years. Class of 2024 and so on all the way down
Right.
to like.
It's like everything's gonna have to be adapted
2030.
into the future. Like even things that we don't consider now are gonna have to be adapted to fit what happened to us. Like we look like a small class, but there's so many things that we affect that are gonna have to be changed.
And just think about like kindergartners. Some kindergartners probably never even learned to read yet,
right.
and that can affect them all throughout elementary because they're already behind. If they're struggling in math, like simple math, and that'll affect them the rest of their school. So
Right.
And that's where parents can tie in as well. They can at least try to teach their children how to read, how to the alphabet, stuff like that.
I mean, luckily, children are better at technology now.
And it's also a lot easier for their brain to develop and learn new things because with the older you get, the harder it can be to process new information and
Yeah.
keep track of it. So for younger kids, that's why in some other countries they start teaching you like a new language when you're like 5 or 6, and that's
Yeah.
how they're like bilingual, trilingual, because they were introduced to those things at such a young
I know.
a young age. Because the brain is still developing, so they can process all that information.
Yeah, I know, like, European countries do that, and in most European countries, over half of the people
Are
in those
bilingual.
countries are bilingual.
Yeah.
Bilingual.
They're bilingual.
I can't even learn Spanish.
I mean,
Yeah.
one of the reasons that Americans usually don't
Is
like
because
learn a second language is because America's just so large, and most people speak English. Most countries
Yeah.
have
Because
English.
Like,
English is one of the biggest business languages, but like
right.
English is the first, and I think it's Spanish is the second one. I don't know what.
But like this
I think
doesn't
it
apply.
might be some Asian language, like
Probably.
China.
This doesn't apply like strictly to languages. It's all of school. So
Right.
now
Yeah.
we have these like 6, 7-year-olds that are missing 2 years of school. That's 2 big years of learning that
Right.
they're missing out on.
Oh, yeah.
And then like there are a lot of tough questions that has to be answered. I think we should take advantage of the 3 months off now.
All right, that seems like a good point to wrap up on. Thank you, Elizabeth, for coming,
You're very welcome.
and thank you for listening to Potato Tamato.